Hello, and welcome back to another Doctor Who action figure review. In today's review, I'm taking a look at the Companions of the Fourth Doctor set, the B&M exclusive that will be out in July. Once again, a massive thank you to Al Duar for generously sending these over to me to review ahead of their release. And like I said in the unit review, when this set was announced, again, I was absolutely floored. I think after the release of Harry Sullivan last year, we all assumed that a Sarah Jane Smith probably wasn't too far behind, but I never expected us to see Romana, well, both Romanas, and especially I didn't expect to see them all in the same set. Absolutely incredible, just amazing. Suddenly overnight, we've just got all of the companions of the Fourth Doctor, which is just amazing. Sorry, Adric. Let's begin, as ever, by taking a quick look at the packaging. So the figures come packaged in the standard 3-pack window box, featuring the blue and white style guide with the TARDIS on the sides, and then on the back of the box we get a few publicity images of the figures inside. So let's begin by taking a look at Sarah Jane Smith from Genesis of the Daleks and Revenge of the Cybermen. Obviously, the first thing to mention is, of course, new tooling with the heads, but a lot of part reuse across the board. I think it's fair to say that some part reuse is more successful than others on all of these figures whenever they do this. That is by no means saying that the figures are bad. With this version of Sarah Jane Smith, the base body is the sort of combat suit Martha Jones that came out quite a few years back now. And I remember when a Sarah Jane Smith figure was sort of originally talked about many years ago, I think it might have been on Twitter. It was suggested that if any Sarah Jane was going to be released, it was going to be this version from season 12, which is fine by me because I obviously really like Genesis of the Daleks, who doesn't, and I actually really like Revenge of the Cybermen. It's one of my first Doctor Who's that I watched, so having this version of Sarah, absolutely great, love it. So let's take a look at the head sculpt. Absolutely fantastic. I think it's a great likeness for Liz Sladen, particularly in that season 12, season 13 look. They've done a lovely job with the face sculpt. The paint apps are very neat and tidy, particularly around the eyes and the lips. And the hair sculpt, if you take a look all the way around, the curls and the waves of the hair, really nicely done. And it's got a sort of a dark wash over the brown just to get into all of the nooks and crannies, bring out the texture of the hair. Really impressed with this head sculpt, and I'm sure we'll see it used on more figures to come. Moving down to the torso piece, this is the area where I think it doesn't work quite as well. In the programme, the jacket's open, you can see she's got the polo neck shirt underneath. Unfortunately, with using this torso piece, you don't get that, it's all done up. When this was first suggested that they do this Sarah Jane, I thought they'd use the same torso piece that they've used on the first Romana, just because, you know, the jacket's open and you can see the shirt and it would just be painted as such. I'm guessing the reason why they didn't do that is because the torso and the legs just didn't match. It would require new tooling to get them to match. So I can totally understand why that wasn't possible. And I guess if you're going to do this version of Sarah Jane in the combats, you're going to have to use the legs with those trousers and those boots. There's not really anything else you can do other than that. However, in order to get around the fact that you can't see the shirt, something that they've done since the original publicity images came out announcing these sets is they've added a slight bit of beigey green or whatever colour that is around the collar to make it look like the shirt collar is just sticking out. So it's just giving you that slight hint that the shirt is on underneath there, which I think works really well. I think that's a very clever compromise. The sculpt here is really good with all the creases and the belt buckles and everything going on and all the buttons. Obviously, it doesn't really resemble 100% what we see in those stories, but it's a nice sculpt nonetheless, and all of the paint applications with the button and the shirt collar are very nice and crisp. Then if we move down to the legs, the trousers are cast in a solid brownish, yellowish colour, and then the green and brown patches of the camo have been painted on over that. This again works really well. Obviously, again, she's got a lot of detail here with all these pouches on the side of the trousers, on the pockets and the buttons and the zips, and lots going on. Probably far more detail than the actual trousers Sarah wore in season 12. Regardless of that, it succeeds in achieving that look of Sarah from that season. And then you've also got the belt around the waist that's been painted brown with the buckles painted silver. And then moving down to her boots, she's got these large combat boots on. These are brown with thick black soles. Although it's not 100% match for what she looks like in the programme, I think they've done a really good job utilising that Martha Jones sculpt and you look at the figure and immediately you know exactly which stories this version of Sarah is from. I really love it. I'm so pleased that not only that we've got a classic version of Sarah, but I'm really pleased that we've got this version of Sarah because, like I said, I really like Revenge of the Cybermen, so sue me. Again, my childhood self is really pleased that we've got this version of her, and I'm sure that now that we have the head sculpt, there will be more versions of her to come in the future. Moving on to the second figure, which is Romana I, as played by Mary Tam. This was a real shocker. This was a companion I kind of assumed we would never get. I thought we would probably get Romana II, and the reason why I didn't think we'd get Romana I is, for me, it always seems like people always preferred Lalla Ward's Romana. It never seemed like Mary Tam's Romana gets an awful lot of love. I personally really, really like Mary Tam's Romana. I think she's great, and I think they've done a fantastic job with the head sculpt here in particular. And again, the part reuse for the body, it doesn't match what we see on screen, really, but the colours create a close approximation. Starting with the head sculpt, I'm absolutely in love with this head sculpt. The thing with Mary Tam, she was incredibly glamorous, stunningly beautiful, and that is very hard to achieve on a mass-produced 5.5-inch toy. What I think they've done here, and I think the sculpt's beautiful anyway, they have added a lot of character into that sculpt. For me, it's that raised eyebrow. It creates such sass and personality in the face. You just can imagine her in the console room with the Doctor, sort of raising her eyebrows at stuff that he's saying, just being generally unimpressed by him. I think that's wonderful. I think they've done a tremendous job. And not just with the face, which looks brilliant, and the paint applications here are really well done, beautiful, no bleeds, nothing like that, really nice and crisp. The hair sculpt, also superb. If you go around, you can see all of the curls going up and around, absolutely stunning, fantastic. And then again, there's like a light brown and a dark brown washed in together, really drawing out those curls and the texture of the sculpt. And I really do hope that in the future we get another version of this Romana, because it would be great to just see this head sculpt again on another body, because I think they've just done such a tremendous job. So then moving down to the costume, like I said, it's not 100% a match for what we see on screen, but the colours all match, and they've tried to capture the essence of that costume, and I think it works well enough. You've got the white shirt underneath, and then the jacket has been painted pink and white. It's a metallic pink, which looks really great, especially when it catches the light. It sort of glitters, it's really lovely. And then the sleeve portions, the pink ends, and then you've just got more white of the sleeves, and that's because the original costume, she's wearing a sort of long white blouse type thing and a pink sort of jacket type thing over the top. You know, they've tried their best to try and match that. And then the trousers are just pure white, as are the boots, and they've just highlighted the belt buckle with some silver paint. So she's the more basic in terms of paint applications out of the three figures, but I still think she looks fantastic. I know some people will probably complain that, oh, the costume isn't 100% correct, but you've got to remember the way that these figures are being produced now, it's a lot of part reuse. It's trying to put as much of the tooling money into creating new heads as possible so we can get new characters. Otherwise, it just wouldn't happen. And I, for one, am very grateful that we're getting these new characters, even if it relies on part reuse. Doesn't bother me. And of course, with the release of this Romana, not only does it mean we have this companion for the first time, but it also means we have our first figure from season 16 as well, which is a great plus. So that now means we have at least one figure from every season of the Fourth Doctor's tenure, and who knows, if these B&M sets continue for long enough, maybe we can start filling out some of the gaps in some of the seasons for the other Doctors as well. And then last but not least, Romana II. Another stunning figure. They did a tremendous job here. They really knocked her out of the park. Some clever part reuse here as well. The body is a Sarah Jane Adventures figure. It's the trench-coated one with the sort of red dress and the blue jeans and the high boots. Again, there's some elements to the sculpt which don't quite match what we see of Romana's costume on screen, but it creates such a great impression of what we do see on screen that it really doesn't bother me at all. So let's begin with the head sculpt. Another dead ringer here. I think they've done a great job with Lalla Ward's face sculpt. Obviously the hair is beautiful, the way that it falls around her head and the parting in the middle, really lovely. As you can see, the way that it's been shaped, it does take into account the fact that you're going to have this large scarf section underneath bulking it out. So you can remove the scarf. I'll just show you here how it looks without the scarf on. So obviously it looks better if you keep the scarf on, because the hair is shaped with that in mind. And then the hair seems to have been cast in a dark brown with the lighter blonde wash over the top to really bring out the texture of the hair, and it just looks stunning. And again, the same with the paint apps on the face, really nicely done. There's not really any bleeds or anything. They've done a really lovely job here. I think these are some of the best sculpts that we've seen in the classic Doctor Who range. Then of course we have another piece of new tooling, which is Romana's white scarf. Now, initially, when the publicity images came out, I wasn't sure if they just repainted Tom's scarf, but no, it's a much smaller, thinner scarf. Very soft PVC, easy to remove. You can just slide it off underneath Romana's hair, and it's easy to put back on. And you can see that the scarf has a little bit of texturing to it. It feels like it's almost knitted or woven, even down to the tassels at the bottom. So if I remove the scarf so we can get a better look at the coat underneath, everything has been cast in this pink colour. They have tried their best to sort of highlight the details that we see on the actual coat with the darker sort of burgundy piping, and onto the collar. You've even got the buttonholes on the lapels. Those have been picked out. The buttons have been picked out as well, just as paint applications. There's no sculpt there. Same again with the pockets as well. Just the suggestion that they're there. And quite honestly, I think that works really well. The same again around the cuffs of the jacket too. Like I said, there are details on here that we don't see on the coat. You know, you've got all these straps and things around the cuffs, and you've got the additional cord and buckles around the back. Honestly, doesn't bother me. Just the fact that in my hand I have this figure is incredible, and it's obvious what story it's from. And then moving down to the legs, again, cast in the same colour, with the boots picked out in this almost sort of burgundy brown with darker soles, and that's a sort of glossy colour for the boots. I think some people were worried that they were going to be glossy black. They're not. They are the glossy brown colour that we see in the show. And then the other thing to address is what's going on underneath the coat. She's got the dress type thing that the Sarah Jane figure had. Romana didn't wear that, obviously. She just had trousers and a blouse or something. Again, they've tried to do their best to capture the details of the actual costume using the sculpt that they have. You've got the skirt is now in pink. They've got a sort of burgundy belt, almost like pink braces going on over the white of the top of the dress. If that's an issue for you, and I know a few people are like, oh, could they have not at least removed the skirt? And I kind of see what you mean. There probably was a reason. It probably would have affected the tooling on the waist and stuff, and it would have all been loose and weird. But what I will say is, when you get this figure, the coat is so tightly closed and with the scarf on that you really can't see any of that stuff going on underneath. You're pretty much oblivious to the fact that that's there. It isn't an issue for me. I think she looks fantastic, and I am just so thrilled once again that we've got all of these figures in our collection. So with regards to articulation, for the most part, they're all basically the same, but there are a few differences between them. So with Sarah Jane Smith, to begin with, she has articulation at the neck, swivel joints at the shoulders, at the biceps, the elbows can pivot back and forth, articulation at the wrists. She has a swivel joint at the waist and at the hips, so that it can go forwards and out to the sides. And then she has articulation at the knees, so they can pivot back and forth like that. And she also has articulation at the top of the boots, so not quite ankles, but thereabouts. And they can swivel back and forth as well. Then moving on to Romana number 1, she has exactly the same articulation as Sarah, but whereas Sarah has articulation here at the boots, Mary Tam's Romana has articulation at the thighs. Other than that, though, articulation-wise is exactly the same. And it's also the same for Romana number 2, Lalla Ward. Her articulation is basically exactly the same as the first Romana's. However, the articulation at the waist is hindered slightly because of the fact she's got this great big coat on, and she's got the skirt and stuff as well. And just in case you're wondering, the hair is very, very soft. So the head actually turns with great ease. And so overall, absolutely stunning set of figures. So pleased that we now have all of the Fourth Doctor's companions. So amazing to see the full season 12 lineup, season 16, season 17. absolutely amazing. I'm so thrilled that we've got them. Like I said, I'm sure we'll see these head sculpts used elsewhere. I can imagine that this Romana figure of Lala Ward will get repainted to be a Horns of Nymon look, which would be lovely in the red. That'd be fantastic. Not sure what they'll do with Mary Tam, but I imagine that they probably have some ideas. So we've definitely been very spoiled this year. We've had a lot of new characters enter into the line, characters we never thought we'd get. Absolutely thrilling. I'm so pleased. So you can pick these figures up in July. They're exclusive to B&M Stores. The set will be £20. And yeah, once again, a massive thank you to Al for sending this over to me. Can't wait for lockdown to end so I can add these to the collection, put them in the cabinets. I might even do a video of me putting them all in the cabinets. People seemed to like that last time. So yeah, thank you all for watching, guys. Stay tuned as I'll be doing another review, which will be the second Doctor and TARDIS from the War Games. And yes, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all then. Bye bye!